Hello, you guys, and welcome to the Women's Cave. I actually
Hello.
did this time. I'm not at all upset that she took it because I'm half asleep and there's no coffee, and it's like 8 in the morning here.
Yes, and I've totally been drinking coffee, which makes me happy because you guys, when I do stuff without coffee, it's never a good look.
Aww.
That
I'm a
does
hot chocolate fan.
lipstick as well.
Yes,
never
it's a good look. It's always a bad look. But
Right.
we're so excited today because, it's not even just us in the Women's Cave. We have some of our really great friends, and we're just so excited to be introducing a new show on our show. Like, what? Don't even do this, but it's so awesome anyway.
My narcissism is actually allowing for another host to just take over and do an entire another episode. Maybe my narcissism is tired, or not as pretty. But
Your
anyway,
narcissism needs coffee.
It does.
And that was our host of Books and Such, right? Or
Books
Books
and
and
Company.
Company.
Wow. Well, Nona, how you gonna mess up your own fucking show? That's hilarious. But anyway, this is Tara Woods Truner, and we're very excited to have you on, and we're gonna let you introduce your guests and everything. So this is the ladies kind of bowing out for the time being.
All right.
Nice day.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And as she stated, this is the first episode of Books and Company here on the Women's Cave. Pretty cut and dry, pretty simple. We just want to talk about great books with great people. And more often than not, the people who write the great books. Yes. So we are lucky to have best-selling author with us today from across the pond, the lovely Segilola Salami. She is the author of not only children's books, but a steamy romance. So, yes. So I think it is pretty amazing that we have a children's book author who also writes romantic books. And if you think about it, the two are really not that far apart. Okay, kind of like cause and effect here. Romance equals children. Who would have thought it?
That was funny.
So Segilola, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much, and good afternoon. It's a rainy day in London.
Oh, London without rain would be like, me without books. So has it been raining off and on all week? Because it's actually been kind of rainy here in New York. I think New York and London aren't that different when it comes to weather. I don't know what to say.
Well, it's been gloomy most of the week, but today it's been, well, I was going to say something, but I'll think of a different word, and it's just been raining. I don't know if kids listen to this show, because I was going to say it's pissing down. Like, seriously, it's just...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, midwinter, I guess it'll get a little bit better for me here in New York before it gets a little bit better for you. So what does a London-based author do on a cold, rainy day? How are you dealing? Do you have your hot chocolate, your cocoa? What are your coping mechanisms for the British weather?
Right, for the last 2 years plus, it's been a mom. So weathers and things don't really, what's the word I'm looking for? I just sort of deal, and it's all about, the little human. So I never really get much time to just sit and think, oh, I'm drinking hot chocolate. That is luxury, seriously. By the time you get your drink, someone is either tapping at you, someone is asking you something. There's a gazillion and one thing that, I've got to do that, drinks. The only time I allow myself that guilty pleasure is at night time. That is the only time I can say I'm going to have, because if I don't have my hot chocolate before I go to bed, I think I would wake up in the middle of the night. Like, seriously.
Feeling deprived.
Yeah, the day just hasn't, so that's the only time I insist that I must have my, my hot chocolate. So during the day, if the weather is really gloomy, we usually just close the curtains, turn on the light, and we're doing something baby related. So that's just literally my life for the last 2 years plus. But the little girl, she's just started nursery now, so I get 2 hours a day to myself, and you're getting one of those hours.
So hot chocolate is your cure for baby brain. I love it.
Yes. And the other day I went to the supermarket, I found myself a nice mug, almost like a soup bowl, but it's a mug. And I measured it, and I'm so sad. And I can actually take 500 mils of hot chocolate, 550 mils of hot chocolate. And I can drink
Wow.
it at one go, and that's still not enough.
Well, you need a swimsuit to drink that much hot chocolate. Oh, wow. I love it. But you know what? Whatever gets you through, you know, that little bit of jolt of cocoa and caffeine, hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yes.
So, you know, I could talk food with you all day because you are also an amazing baker. But I don't know, that could sort of be a conversational like black hole because, you know, you and I have had so many conversations about food.
I think we can spend hours talking about food. I love
Yes,
food.
it's
Food makes the world go round.
It does. And so I'm not going to mention your famous Oreo cake. See, I'm not
You're
going to
gonna
do it, okay? You can't make me talk about the Oreo cake. But what I do want to talk about are your books. Let's start with your parenting books.
Mm.
I don't even know where to start. You've written some wonderful language books for children. So just give us a little bit of history about how that kind of started the ball rolling, because you've been very prolific. If I'm not mistaken, you've written, I want to say 4 books in the past year, and it all started with a project that you did for your daughter. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so whilst in quote unquote maternity leave, and because I lost my mom 2013, and you know, before she passed away, you know, she was really keen on being a grandmom. And my sister, she had her son, but then she lived in a different town to my parents. So my mom only heard that she had a grandson, but she never actually got to see him because she passed away exactly 3 weeks after he was born, or yeah, so 3 weeks after he was born, that was when she passed away. So then I then had my little girl, and I think it was just one of those days where, you know, I think it was just a little over a year after my mom passed away that I heard her. So I think, you know, she was always on my mind a lot of the time. And you always go back to your mom like, oh, if your mom was here, this is what you had, the kind of conversation, you know, you will be having, that sort of thing. And so when I was maybe around 5, 6, I don't know how old I was, you know, my mom used to sit down, you know, with me and my sister in the evenings, and she would tell us like folk tales. You know, that was just our thing growing up. So I always thought about that, and I was like, oh my God, you know, now she's never going to do that. I didn't think I remembered the stories anywhere near as good as my mom. I didn't think I could be anywhere as good a storyteller.
Right.
As my mom. So I thought, you know what, I was just stuck, you know, trying to compile the stories down just so that at least when she's older and can appreciate it, I have, you know, an arsenal of, you know, stories that I can tell her, and not just, you know, the, you know, Red Riding Hood and the typical ones.
Exactly.
And so that was basically what got me writing in the first place. And it was just more something that I would tell my little girl. Then I don't know if you're familiar with the Nollywood industry, which is basically the Nigerian movie industry, which is the 3rd largest movie industry in the world.
Nollywood.
Right?
Nollywood, you called it?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. So we got Nollywood, Bollywood, and Hollywood. Okay.
Yes.
I love it.
But what's been happening though is that a lot of Nollywood, I mean, we've seen a lot of growth in the industry in the terms of, oh, I'm not even showing my face, in terms of the quality of the movies that are being produced now, as opposed to in the 90s when the industry first started.
Right.
So I was thinking to myself that it would be absolutely amazing if I could, and I'm very optimistic, maybe delusionally optimistic, but I was optimistic that, you know, it would be quite amazing if I could get my folk tales and made it into 3D animation.
Right.
So I started writing the you know, so whilst I had the stories, I then wrote it as a script, you know, to try and get it to an animator. Then I put an ad out on People Per Hour, and I got a couple of low budget animators, you know, willing to do it. But I think because they were low budget and maybe there was a bit of a cultural divide, I don't know what it was, but they weren't able to develop. They were able to make characters, but they weren't
Right.
able to take the characters that I wanted in my head.
They didn't capture the essence of what you created.
Yes, they couldn't
Right.
capture it. So I just said, you know what? I was really upset about it, and my friends said to me prior that animation is really expensive. So I guess for me to see someone who could get what was in my head and what I had written down and be able to create the characters the way that I wanted it, I thought it was probably going to be really expensive. So I was then having another conversation with someone, and they were like, well, why don't you just make it into a book and just put it out there? I mean, you've got the script, so you might as well just convert it and put it into a book and just put it out there. And who knows, in the future you might be able to afford to make it into an animation, 3D animation, rather than 2D. And I thought, yeah, so why not? And that's basically how the first book, Yetunde and Yetunde, The Life and Times of a Yoruba Girl in London.
Yes.
That's how I got the first book. And then I guess, it was quite nice, to be able to press publish and just see it, out there. And I was like, wow, actually I did this. And then, I had a few people, who had given me good feedback about the book. Obviously there's always room for improvement. So it was kind of like, wow, okay, so something that I just imagined, obviously I took, traditional like Nigerian folktales and I added my own twist to it. And, so for people to be able to appreciate it or enjoy it, it was kind of like, oh, wow, okay, I can actually do this. Then also, because I live in London and I want to make sure that my little girl, she doesn't lose track of her heritage. And
that's what's so beautiful about the Yetunde books.
Yes.
Is it was born out of a sense of wanting that continuity with your culture and with your heritage on a large scale, but also just about the relationship that you had with your mother on sort of a smaller scale.
Yes.
And you pay tribute to that beautifully with the stories that are in the two books. But this is what I love the most, is you did it within the framework of a mother-daughter relationship. So there was never a departure from how you came to know the stories, what you wanted to give to your daughter with the stories, and how you chose to actually present the stories. So on that front, I have to tell you, just well done on that front. And that's going to mean so much to your daughter in years to come, just like it means to your readers, even now. So that was something that worked out well.
Thank you.
And I hope you're not finished with the Yetunde series.
Well, now that I'm getting 2 hours to myself, I feel like, this month, I'm probably going to just use this month to catch up on, ironing, catch up with sleep, catch up and just do me, just get a bit of time and just do me, where it's just me. I'm not a mom. I'm not anybody. I'm just me, myself. So once I use, my 2 hours to catch up on that, I'm hoping that next month, I will start writing again. I actually had a little note to myself that I was going to put a blog post. I'm going to say that I have a plan that this year I want to make sure that I have 10 books in total, at least 10 books in total under my name.
Wow.
So far, I think I have 7. So that means I want to write at least 3. But I actually have, so in my mind, I want to do at least 2 adult audience books and 2 children audience books. And this time around, last year I did a number of nonfiction. So this year I want to do more fiction related stuff. So I'm hoping at least 1 more Yetunde book, and I'm going to do 1 more Abiku book. So those 2 are guaranteed this year, and then I'll just see how it goes.
Exciting. We have that to look forward to. Well, you mentioned that, after the animation idea that you had didn't really come to fruition, or at least not in the way that you'd originally planned. That some friends, some acquaintances said, you know what, just go with the idea yourself. And
Yeah.
so that led you down the self-publishing route. And your books have done well. So my question to you is, has that sort of sparked any interest in, say, well, okay, I published my own book. As far as branching out or franchising what you've already created, do you think that there will be opportunities for you to also take that in hand and do some of your own branding and franchising with the series that you've created? Because I see no reason for you to stop at books. What are some things you've got in the pipeline? What are some things we can look forward to from your series beyond just the actual books?
I haven't really thought that far yet. One thing that I did do, I mean, we're friends offline, so you know that last year, I don't know what it was about me that made hackers decide that I was going to be the best person to
Right. Yes.
found, see needlessly, unendingly, and they keep trying, but I've upped my, my website security.
Yes, you were hacked. I think at one point, after the second round of attacks you got from your hackers, I think you said you had to manually delete 300 emails from your account
Yes.
as a result of the hacking.
Yes, I had. I think it was even more than that. It was like literally pages and pages of failed, and stuff. So
And
this
they
year,
attacked your blog as well. I think it was
yes.
Russia, if you want to be honest.
Sorry?
It could have been Russia. I have no proof. But
I don't know what it is, or what it was about me. But I think it was more black hat SEO guys.
right.
And I think because I don't know, I think because again, I started this without having any idea about, what's the word, like how domains and stuff. But anyway, so I recently found out sort of towards the end of yesterday that my website has a fair bit of traffic. I mean, nowhere near as much as, because my website is still less than a year old. It's gonna become a year old at the end of this month. So at the time all of this was going on, my website was like maybe 6 months, something like that. And my website, currently has a domain authority of 25, which, considering that, it's on a scale of 0, or is it 1 to 100, 25 is not bad, because a lot of new websites, when you see them, they start off like 1, 2.
Yeah. Have you been looking at my site rankings again? I told you to stop doing it.
I haven't looked at yours. What is it now?
Oh, I'm joking. It's not 25, I'll tell you that. So congratulations on that. But do you think that's part of what,
I think so, that maybe because what they were doing is that they were then doing, and these people are so smart. I've really learned a lot from them, right? So when I went into my back end, I then looked at the content, and nothing was visible. Nothing told me that anything was wrong. But then when I went into the HTML side of it, I don't saw a gazillion things that they've done. But then there's a way that they've done it where they've put a code that says hide. So when they put in the code, it was then not visible, right?
Wow.
So basically they do dodgy stuff like that. So that's why I think it was sort of like black hat SEO guys. Anyway, so basically what that led to me to do is to then create another website, which I then used as my quick, because I'm self-published, I did it as my publishing website, where I then thought, what, instead of putting my books for sale via my author website, I might as well just put it via my publishing imprint. So what I then put there, which I haven't even promoted, I haven't really done. I'm really bad with promotion. And I would like to say thank you to everybody who supports me, even though I'm possibly one of the worst promoting authors out there. Because all I do, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. So I think it's all the people on Twitter, they share stuff. I mean, the first editorial review that Abiku got, he found out about it from Twitter. So, thank you to everyone on Twitter who supports me and, tries to help me do well. So basically, because of the whole hacking thing, I then created this new website. And so one thing that I've done on there is that I've said to anyone who wants to write like an African, Caribbean type novel, book, whatever it is, with an African focus, then I can help them, publish it, sort of under my imprint.
Under your own imprint, yes.
Yes, because thing is, most of the time, and when I first started, I thought it was a thing to get like an agent or a publisher, and because again, we all knew at the time, and even though I had already self-published, it was after I self-published, and I thought, oh, would it be better for me to go down that route? And then I then found out about vanity publishers who were asking me to give them thousands of pounds, and I was like, really?
Oh, yes.
And then there were some, who were like, oh no, sorry, this is not our thing, this is not our thing. And I just thought, I seriously think that there are a lot of, Afrocentric books, fiction, that, would do very, very well. But unfortunately, the mainstream publishers are not really interested because they go with the market, basically. So that's why I thought, well, if anyone was ever interested, then I would be able to help them publish their book. I'm not going to be able to give them loads of money, yes, because I don't have loads of money to give.
Right, but in a way, it's sort of a beautiful thing that pushes you to find your own doors to open.
Yes.
Because even with a lot of traditional publishers, they're at best they're also only working on historical assumptions.
Yes.
And for example, with Abiku, I think that one thing that's been really interesting about that, and it does speak to market trends in publishing, is that you haven't always necessarily found fans of the book where you thought you'd find them.
Yes.
So would you like to speak a little bit about that and what that says about how we market our books, or rather, what happens when we only market to whom we think fits our demographic as far as our readership?
See, for me, right, I've been like I said, I'm really absolutely bad with promoting stuff, just because the Little Human takes up like 95% of my time, and the only time I get to do anything is when I'm supposed to be sleeping. And I've had a few friends say, like, when do I actually get to sleep? And
exactly.
for the last few years, I've probably only gotten maybe 4 hours sleep a night. I think when I'm dead, I'm going to have enough sleep anyway, so I might as well utilize, my time the best that I can do. So, and a lot of times people will say that you should define your audience. And now this is stuff that I know, but I haven't done yet, just simply because I've not been able to get the time to do anywhere half as much of the things that I want to do, right? So for me, I personally believe that there are 3 types of people that any author should target, right? So there are book readers that are book buyers. There are book buyers that are book readers that are book buyers, book readers that are not book buyers, and book buyers that are not book readers.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so those are the 3 types of people, and for you to see success, you should then find a way to reach them. But that is not going to be the first thing that you should be doing. What you want to do is you need to get social proof first, right? And so it doesn't matter who it is that gives you a review, even if it's a negative review, right? Actually, if anything, the more quote unquote negative review that you get, I think it's better, right? But as long as it's not just a thing of, oh my God, I hated this book, but as long as it's a constructive negative review, I didn't like this book because there were lots of typos, or I didn't like this blue book because I couldn't engage with the character. When it's sort of, so when people are reading, so by the time you then, so that's the initial thing that everyone should do, which is where, my book is at the moment, so that when you're then targeting the proper people who are going to hopefully spend money on your book, so the book readers that are book buyers, the book buyers that are not book readers, and then the book readers that are not book buyers, they will then have all those reviews, because again, they need to know that, it's good, it's worth investing their time in. And if you don't have that social proof that actually people who have read it, people who have given feedback, then, you might think, I know I would, I rarely give books that don't have any reviews, a chance, because that's how I filter books. So when I'm reading, so I always,
lack of reviews say as much about the book as anything that.
Yes, right. Because there are so many books to read, and a lot of time people say you should define your audience. I use myself as my audience, right? What type of a reader? Because you cannot write a book. Well, I think you shouldn't write a book that you cannot relate to. You shouldn't write a book that you wouldn't read, right? So when I'm doing my stuff, I always think of myself as my reader, right? Because this is stuff that I would think that if someone else had written, I would like to read. So what are my buying patterns? What are the things that I like to do? And so if ever I felt the need to check a review, I always think, well, is the review actually telling me something constructive, or is it just a case of, oh, I don't like it, that sort of thing. And so that's where it is now. For my book, for Abiku, it's actually quite enlightening, because the type of people that I think, well, not all of them, some of them, so if we divide it into and say some of them, I think there is, and I could be totally wrong, but I think there is a generational issue with my book, right? I feel, yes, that some of the older people can't relate to what I've written.
Right.
Simply because, so for instance, spoiler, a little spoiler, right? So Daya, the main female character, right? She starts off, seducing her father's driver, her father's chauffeur, right? And she was in a relationship with him.
Yes.
But at the same time, because she had taken, illegal drugs, she was hallucinating, or she thought she was hallucinating, that she was also making out with someone in her dream.
Right.
Right? So it was not that she was actually making out with two people in the real world. I mean, I'm sure people have dreamt about making out in their sleep before. That doesn't mean they're cheating on their partners. But I think a lot of the older people who have read it, they've assumed that she was actually...
They didn't make that fine distinction between her,
yes,
her waking reality and
her dream reality. Right. And so they were like, oh, she's got no morals. How can she be sleeping with two men at the same time? No remorse, no nothing.
Yeah, let's focus on who she's making out with in her dream instead of the drug use. let's
I have a quick question.
I have a question. Yes, a question from the people in the background. As you were talking about, I think as a reader, I agree with you. We were talking about the reviews and how people don't really buy a book unless it at least has 1 or 2 reviews.
Yeah.
And also the negative reviews, because that's a very interesting. I have bought books that had like 5, 7, 10 negative reviews, but it was because the people said, oh, there was typos, but then I know what I'm getting into before I go into it.
Yeah.
Or that I didn't identify with the character, and kind of have to think about, oh, okay, well, I guess maybe this person doesn't understand what culture this is or something. So
yeah.
I really do agree with you that a couple of negative reviews will help you out.
Yes, no, definitely. Especially if they're constructive. If people just say, oh, it's rubbish, then that doesn't really tell you anything.
Right. Well, I definitely want to piggyback on what Jade said. I remember in particular, there was a nonfiction book I was interested in. And the book was quite expensive, so I said, I really need to make sure this is the book, the purchase that I really want to make. And it was covering subject matter that I was very much interested in. And so I'm reading the reviews, and I'm the type, I'll read, it's not uncommon for me to read 15, 20 reviews just to get an idea, of what's going on. And one reviewer after the other kept saying, the author goes on too much into detail about things. It was a book about medieval history, and everybody kept saying, I liked the book, it was interesting, but the author felt the need to go into too much detail. He described, every bit of architecture, every painting, every historical battle, when I felt it could have just, been summed up a little more neatly. And that made me buy the book because I love details. I love all the minutia, especially when it comes to history.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, this is exactly, what I want to be what I want to be doing here. So even negative reviews can help you decide if the book is for you.
Right.
Exactly.
And those reviews were probably like 3 and 2 stars or something like that. They were horrible. But I'm telling you, I know when I'm reading, and I'm an avid reader, I read like 8, 9 books a week, something crazy like that. And I know that I look at the negative reviews, but a lot of people, sometimes all books aren't for everybody. And it's
Yes.
true. There's no way you can write a book for everybody.
Yes.
It's not going to happen. And so if that helps you make a better judgment call. Like, you love detail and a lot of people hate detail.
Yes.
I've been here, Jade. I just wanted to, this is Winona, and I just quickly wanted to say, see, like, Segilola and I hate all the time where we have to talk about every little detail. We don't want to talk about if there was a crack in the tub. We'd like you to move for it.
Exactly. See, and I write, so a few people have said, that there isn't a lot of character development. And one reviewer said she would have liked to know what Daya's life was, at university. Now, for me, if I was a reader, I would have found that extremely annoying. Why do I care what she does at university? I know what university life is. Why do I need to know that she went to university and had a drink or she went to lectures? That does not, add to the story. I don't need. See, that's just, I'm using myself, I write the way I would like to read, right? So for me, I'm more interested in, I'm the kind of person that just wants to go, pam, 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 here, what's happening? Give me the details. I want the juicy bit. I don't want to see the it was rainy and it was this and all the, the nice fluffy little bits that, however way people like to do the character development. See, as a reader, I'm not interested. I skim through books. And that's why Abiku is a novella, because that's about as much attention span that I would want to give a book.
Novellas are on the rise for that very reason. But did it ever trigger any ideas that maybe that could be a prequel or something that you could incentivize for your mailing list? Because if someone is saying, "Oh, I want to know more about her life before the book started," I don't know, does that plant, and it's too much to fit into a novella, but does it give you any great ideas about maybe giving people more Abiku?
I don't know yet. Like I said, I only get 4 hours of sleep, madam. In my head I have 24 hours a day to do so many things, but literally, I literally only have 4 hours a day, to reply. Like, for instance, my inbox is filled with mails and things that I should have replied to. I just haven't had the time to sit down. Like, the only time I reply to emails that take me no more than a sentence. Yes, thank you very much. You're short. That kind of emails, I would do that. But any other email that needs me to actually sit down and
compose it,
they're all on my to-do list. So it's just the time. If I had all the time in the world, then yes, possibly I would do more. I might even try to do, more novella type and do a series of novellas. But I'll just take it as I, just do as the time I get, allows me to.
Right, exactly. So you need a virtual assistant for Christmas. That's what you need wrapped up under your tree for the holidays.
Yes, please.
So since we have, I absolutely don't want to wrap up without you telling our readers here, our listeners and our viewers, why don't you let's go backwards a little bit, and why don't you tell us how you made the move from writing children's books to writing steamy, African romance. How did you go down that road, and what was it like to sort of turn off the mommy brain and write something, again, like you said, something that you yourself would want to read?
Yeah, so again, just like I haven't been on Goodreads a lot recently, but there was a time when I was on Goodreads quite a lot, and I saw a report, analysis, statistics, whatever it is, about how romance was the top, top selling genre amongst, amongst all the genres, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, it would be good to do that, as an analysis, right, to see if there was any truth, towards it, right? So I thought to myself, yeah, I mean, would it be worth just writing, really dodgy book, not writing anything good, and just seeing if people would just, by virtue of the fact that it's in romance, just go and buy it and, just get a good cover, and it doesn't matter what dodgy story that I write, so that was stuff that was going through my head.
So you started this as a science experiment.
Yes.
Like a what if? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually quite curious that if someone just writes any romance, puts it on, on Amazon, would people just rush towards it because it's romance, right? So that was what I was like. It would be quite nice to figure out, if that would happen. Then somebody on Goodreads then puts that she had an African horror story that she was looking for reviewers to read. And I thought to myself, oh, that's actually quite interesting, but I'm too much of a wuss. I'm too much of a scaredy cat. I said to her, I would love to read it, but I'm too much of a scaredy cat.
Not a horror fan, naturally.
Yes, I mean,
Is that?
I'm the type of person that goes to the cinema and everybody else would keep quiet and I would scream, right? So yes, and then African horrors, right? African horrors, like if you think of American horrors, I think American horrors are more thrillers than horrors, whereas African horror story, right, they would give you nightmares, right? They're psychological, they will mess with your brain, right? And I just thought, no, there's just no way. If someone said, oh, I've got this, European horror story, I would read that. If someone said to me, I've got an African horror story,
You would
believe
say,
you,
no, thank you.
exactly, I would not even touch it. Just even hearing about it gave me nightmares. I was just thinking, oh my God, what kind of ghost, what kind of witchcraft, whatever. That was the sort of thing that was going through my head. And because I started thinking about it, then it then said, actually, what if you then wrote an African horror story that was a romance? And the next thing I knew, because my brain was just working overtime, what if you then did African horror story, romance, erotica together, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so over your 4 hours of sleep, you were also an overachiever. This is very interesting. This is very, very interesting.
I'm in the sense of time and being aware of time. Had a quick question about like how did the experiment end? Did it go with good book sales?
Well, that's the thing though, because it's not your typical what's the word? It's not your typical romance. So the main plot of the story is not romance. It's focusing more on you know what, you guys are even the experts, right? You guys can, because I was speaking to my friend and we're trying to, because he said that it's not paranormal, it's not supernatural, it's more fantasy. And we were trying to then figure out, so the book, even though it's called romance elements, it wasn't really the romance, it was this, Tara, you've read it. What do you think? Because it's not your typical, and some readers have said it as well, right? That it's not your typical romance, and because
right, it's more urban paranormal actually, or it's more contemporary, fantasy paranormal. There are romantic elements, but it's very much urban fantasy.
Yeah, so it doesn't really follow through on the normal. Yes, there are romance elements to it, and yes, there are steamy bits to it, but that was never really the main focus of the book. Yeah, the thing is, sometimes you have an idea in your head, and then the story just writes itself, and then you
take you to another place, right?
Yeah, it just takes you somewhere. It just takes you somewhere else completely. So yes, there were. So it's when I was doing all my pre-sales, because I put it available as pre-orders, and I did do well that time, but then I haven't really done much promotion. It's even though without doing promotion, so I use Ingram Spark as my distributor because I'm trying to come away from having my hands in so many pies to Amazon, Smashwords, Draft Digital. I'm trying to come away from that. I'm trying to go with quote unquote the best because they've got the most extensive distribution network. So, and even without doing any promotions, it still sold a couple that has been reported on my Ingram Spark dashboard. But then what I've seen the most success with is actually on my own website. So, because if you remember from the presentation, and don't worry, viewers, we're like friends. We go around all the different circles, right? So, if you remember from the presentation that I gave with Miss Andy's virtual summit, I did say that I'm trying to work on my own real estate. So whilst I've actually got loads of downloads from my own website, because that's where I've been promoting it. That's what I've been asking people to obviously come to my website, Don't go on Amazon. Yes, you won't see the everything has its good side and its downside. So by not going on Amazon, the book rankings wouldn't go up there because the sales are not happening there. But by having people come to my website to get the purchase, then it means that my mailing list has gone up. It means that my website ranking has gone up. And it means that when the second book comes out, whenever I get around to writing it, I already have, people who've read the first book and I'm sure would be interested in reading the second book. So I already have, a list of people that I can easily mail to say, well, you know what, book 2 is out, I would like you to check it out. And you know what, I will give it to you for free, just, check it out. And so that I think, makes
it's a good trade-off.
Yeah, so that's what you do. So at the moment, I am
a better trade-off. I think that is a better trade-off, really, because you have people that you absolutely know have read, and you know who they are. Not saying you know who they are, not like, I Googled it and found out you nothing creepy know who you are. But you know who you are in the sense of, I have your email address, and I know you were interested, and you said I could send you stuff. So here it is.
And God forbid, you don't want any site to get hacked, but let's just say that, other sites where you're selling, your titles, what if something happens to that website or anything could happen, but now you have your readers. They're a part of your website family, and you can always reach out to them, exclusively. And that's powerful.
Yes, so that's why. So
you're your own book bub.
Exactly. So I'm actually slowly growing. At the moment, I have close to 1,000 people on my mailing list. Obviously, they're all in different segments. Some people are from my podcast. Some people are, general, and then some people are just for book reviews. But I've got close to 1,000 people, and that's me doing this for just about a year. So I'm hoping that
amazing. Congratulations on that. That's amazing. So let's just, if someone did want to know more about your books, more about your titles, and to join your ever-growing website, so they can keep up with the latest Segilola Salami news. How can we get in touch with you? How can we gain access to your books, your titles? What do you want to tell our readers about how to contact you?
So easiest way, if you go to my author website, I'm really lazy. I don't update my books on my author website, but what you would find a lot of on my author website is actually my blog, because I do my podcast. And I post my episodes there, and then the random mommy and daughter things that I post, and just random stuff. So my author website, that's where, if you want to check out my blog, that's what drives people there the most. So that's segilolasalami.co.uk. So that's SEGILOLA, then SALAMI, lots of S's. .co.uk. But then if you want to see, the complete list of all my books, then that would be segilolapublishing.com. So SEGILOLA publishing, all one word, .com.
Excellent. And your biggest social interface you mentioned earlier is Twitter. So how can we contact you? How can we follow you on Twitter?
Oh yeah, sorry. At Iyayetunde1. So that's IYAYETUNDE. Then the figure 1. And you see, it's funny thing though, because again, I started off, trying to do this as an animation thing. And so, Iyayetunde, because the first book was called Iyayetunde, right? So I used the mom's name, Iyayetunde, as my Twitter thing. And now I think about it, it's like, because I never actually envisaged that I would, do a lot of things as an author. So if I had known that, I probably would have used my name. But yeah, so that's why.
Well, that's good branding. Hey, don't feel bad. That's good branding.
Yeah,
it's good. Segilola, it's been wonderful having you, and it's been wonderful having our co-host Tara. And people, please check her out at
TaraWoodsTurner.com. TARAWOODSTURNER.com.
I love how everyone is spelling everything today.
Yes, I feel like I should spell stuff, but that's just the line.
Yes.
So
when your name isn't Jane Doe, you pretty much don't want to take for granted that people can figure out.
Well, that's true, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Jade.
And I'm Winona, and we are 2 members of the 11 ladies that make up the And I Thought Lady. And what we've had today is our first episode of Books and Company. Yes,
Winona got that right. High five.
Woo. I feel like I'm going to mess up the tag at the end.
Yes, that's okay. It's okay.
And Tara Woods Truner has hosted that, and her guest today has been Segilola Salami.
So you guys check out her podcast too. Segilola Salami, awesome podcast. We're on it a lot, so you know. I just wanted to say that. But also, remember, you guys, you can check out our books, the And I Thought series, And I Thought Divorce Was Bad, and I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy, and I Thought I Could Juggle It All, and I Thought I Did My Journey Alone. Oh, see, there you go. Yes. All of those on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and on our website. If you want to buy it from our website, please go to the store section and we will scratch you out, chicken scratch, or Dr. Script, as Winona likes to call it, a nice handwritten thing for you and sign it for you. So this is,
before we sign off, you guys, you can catch all of us and the information about Tara's next episode on andwethought.com as well, and where we'll be, like the WCOMB next week on the
in Vegas. Your ladies are going to Vegas. Anyway. Let's
that is awesome. That is so wrong that you guys are going to be in Vegas.
I know,
but it's awesome wrong. It's awesome wrong.
Because we're gonna tear up the town, right? Anyway, we just want to leave you guys with this wonderful thought. Wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. And for today, especially in books. Bye-bye, you guys. Peace and love from Winona
and Jade.
Bye-bye.
Bye.